Okay, everybody, welcome to Nova Scribes. It's nice to have you back. This evening, I am very happy to introduce Lisa Rothstein. She is a former Madison Avenue creative director turned visual facilitator, cartoonist, and brand storyteller. Through her company, Drawing Out Your Genius, she helps people communicate with ideas, clarity, warmth, and humor, one drawing at a time. And tonight, she's going to be sharing expressing emotion and making human connection. And with that, Lisa, over to you.
Hi, so great to be here. Thanks, Brian, for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you all. I'm fairly new to graphic facilitation and all of that, coming from a long background in advertising and everything. But my heart was always as a cartoonist since I was a little kid. And in fact, what I went to get before some of you folks were here at the beginning, and I ran away to get something. I have on my desk the very first thing I ever bought with my own money. I have hundreds of these books now, but this was a little book of Peanuts cartoons. It was 40 cents. That's how old. I'm older than dirt. That's how old I am. This was 40 cents. It was my first purchase in my life. And I would sit here and study the faces and the expressions, these different little, these different little expressions on these characters' faces, and try to understand, like, how is it that I feel angry or frustrated when I see this person, and how do I know that how he's feeling just by these little lines on page. And even when I was a little kid, I was thinking, why is that? How does that work? I want to do that, right? So of course, my parents, who were born in the Depression, told me pretty much every day, and I didn't even know what this meant, that I would be out on the street selling pencils if I tried to earn a living as a cartoonist. You'll be out on the street selling pencils. You'll be out on the street selling pencils. I heard that like every day. I still don't know. I've still never seen anybody selling pencils, but apparently that's a bad thing to have to be doing to make a living. So that's how I ended up in the advertising business. But I never lost my joy of cartooning. And now when I do graphic recording for people, one of the things that they say they like most about my work, it's not the calligraphy, that's for sure. It's not the design or the organization of my boards. You'll see they're pretty chaotic, but they like the fact that there are people and they connect emotionally with my stuff. So what I would like to show you today are easy ways to do that, to use some kind of tricks that cartoonists know to bring that kind of emotional content into your work, and not to change what you're doing, but maybe just to add like a little sprinkle of cartooning and character development into your work, so that it has that emotional connection with your viewers and your clients. So I'm going to share my screen because I do have a little bit of a geeky PowerPoint thing, because I can't seem to do these things without feeling like I have to be a presenter. So I'll share my screen really quick. Let's see, this one, PowerPoint. I want to share that window. Let's see if it works. Are you able to see that? Yes, I assume. All right, so this. Yeah, I see. Okay, I see his thumbs up. So this is the title. You see my little characters there looking enthusiastic and excited. That's what I had to. I hope you'll feel at the end of this. Brian gave me a little bit of a bio, so I'm not going to go into all of this. That big yellow thing in the middle is my book, which is actually called Drawing Out Your Genius. I'll tell you how to get that at the end. I just published that this summer. I'm very excited about that. But just to go into a little bit of my history with cartoons, like I just showed you that Snoopy book. Okay, yeah, love the expressions, Casey. I do too. So here's where I kind of got my start, was looking at things like this. This is kind of fun. So you see how the characters changed from the 50s to the 60s. I'm actually kind of a fan of late 1960s, 1970s Snoopy. That's that was my my ride or die character. But you can see how Charlie Brown evolved and everything. But still, even in the earliest versions had very distinct expressions. You've got, I'm feeling sick or nervous. I'm thinking about something, or I'm feeling confident. Or you've got Snoopy looking kind of cocky, and kind of cheeky, or sort of frustrated and like, oh boy, people are stupid. Just it's really so interesting to me how these little things can really change how you feel. I feel something when I look at these, and that's what I think people do when you add like human or animal characters. I mean, it doesn't really matter what kind of a It could be a monster. It could be a cow. They all have expressions. It's the same, right? I'll show you that a little bit later. Here's an illustrator that on a good day I get compared to a lot. He's one of my favorites. Quentin Blake illustrated all the Roald Dahl books and did a lot of books of his own. So if you want to check him out, but you see how simple. I mean, they're beautiful, but how simple these drawings are and how rough. I love that, and James Thurber is actually my spirit animal. In fact, when I got rejected for as a children's illustrator by HarperCollins one time, they said my drawings were Thurber-esque, which softened the blow a little bit to not get my book selected to be published. But look at these expressions. If you can keep a secret, I'll tell you how my husband died. And you got the guys like, what does that mean? And she's looking at him in this kind of evil expression. How do they do that? Here's another Thurber. This is a famous one. All right, have it your way. You heard a seal bark, and the guy's looking around. Where did that sound come from? And then the seal is right there on top of them. It's funny. So my big claim to fame, my big bucket list achievement in my life is that I now do draw some cartoons for the New Yorker magazine. And this was one of my more popular ones that was licensed for. What you see here is not a book. It's kind of a little package of note cards. They all have dog themed note cards. And so you can see like the two human characters are basically just kind of observing and have kind of a flat sort of observational expression, while the two dogs are joyfully embracing, like they haven't seen each other in years, long lost friends. And and the caption, if you can't read it, says, "I guess you're right, we have met before." And that came right out of an experience that I had in New York, walking my dog, and people, like the dogs all knew each other, but the people I didn't remember their owners at all. And so it was kind of a funny way of meeting folks. Here are a few others of mine. This ran as a daily cartoon. I don't know if you guys remember this, but during the last spring, there was a big story about how some scientists had cloned some prehistoric wolves from kind of DNA that they got off of prehistoric. And at the same day that story came out, the stock market took a big dump because of, I don't know, tariffs or something, and everybody was freaking out. So that's when they ran this cartoon, and the caption says, "Of all the times not to be extinct." And I want you to look at the expressions on the faces, the worried expressions on their faces. Like, this now is not a good time to be here. This is probably my most popular one. This is one that ran 6 months, about in June of 2020. So if everyone remembers where we were in June of 2020, this one is like takes place in hell, and the devil is saying to his assistant, looking down at all the poor people on their laptops, "It's new. We placed them in an endless video conference with everyone they couldn't stand in life." So it's everyone was already sick of Zoom conferences and Zoom meetings. Even 6 months into COVID, no one knew that we had like 2.5 more years of having to do this, right? But if you look at the expressions on the people, they are, there's this guy down here on the bottom who's really looking kind of miserable. Everyone looks kind of miserable, except for the devil and his little assistant, who look very satisfied with their new torture that they've devised for people. So I'm gonna stop sharing this, and I'm gonna go to I'm going to change my camera to a down camera that I have here. Let's see, hopefully this will work, because I want to show you how it works in Sketchnote, since I know a lot of you guys are Sketchnoters, visual practitioners, graphic recorders, whatever you want to call it. How do I, whoops, why is it doing this? I've set this up before I came here, but somehow it's gone haywire. Okay, this is one I did for it's a little bit blown out. Let's see if I can make the light a little bit better. If I can move this light, change this a little bit, maybe that'll help. Well, if I zoom in, it'll be good. This was from a symposium called the Future of Work, and there was, I don't know why these are so this is so blown out. Okay, if I just keep my hand in here, it'll do this. But the idea was, they were talking about neuroscience and how it worked for remote teams. And see, come on, guys, focus, please. You can see these things with the different facial expressions, and they talked about how loneliness was bad for your health, worse than cigarettes, worse than gaining weight. So you see, I have this little lonely guy here. There are these people who are in sync with each other and kind of in a kick line, have, looking satisfied with themselves. I like this one. Rats, when rats are in sync, they groom each other. So here's one in a barber's chair. But the point is not so much that the mice and everything, but you see these people, looking friendly to each other, and there's a feeling that comes out of this. And so I try when I hear something about something where people might be feeling something, like here's a guy looking at his phone in a meeting and everybody else is mad at him because they're not paying attention. It tells a little story. So it's kind of more than just the icons that we sometimes use or anything else. There's like a lot of humanity in here. And let's see if I have another example. Here's one. This was not done live. This was planned, but this is one about this woman has a business doing succession planning, meaning helping companies make sure that they can promote from within and when people leave the board and stuff like that. So here's a guy who he doesn't want to worry about hassling with how employers are going to complain and the public is going to complain when they read about the CEO has left and all this stuff. And here's this worried guy. And here's a bunch of board members when the CEO decides to quit, and they're all like, uh-oh, they're all planning their own escape. Here's somebody new coming into the company, and all of the different generations are going to help him. So you see they have this kind of friendly, helpful expression. So it's just, you could do all of the same information without these kinds of things. But I feel that what people like about my work is that it has these kinds of things in there. I'll give you one more. This one was for Matthew McConaughey was speaking at this event, so I do a little bit of like caricature and stuff. I apologize for the blowing out. If I zoom in, it does help a little bit. So there he's talking to people in a meeting, and everybody's happy to be sharing their ideas. Here's somebody kind of thinking and brainstorming and studying, and kind of preparing quietly. Here's somebody, I don't remember what he was saying when it was like some stranger comes up and says they love you. He talked about, I'm not sure what he meant by this. He talked about bringing back embarrassment. Of course, I used a little bit of color to help with that, so he's blushing. But anyway, I'm going to show you, and some of you might know these things already, but I'm going to show you now. And if you have a piece of paper, now's a chance to get out a piece of paper or your iPad. It doesn't matter to me what you use. And if you follow along with this, it will actually help a lot if you've never done this before. It may look a little bit third grade if you've done this kind of thing before, but trust me, it does help to practice it. And because it when you're in the moment, when you're doing live graphic recording and stuff, it really helps to be able to just whip this stuff out of your pocket, because I mean, for me, drawing these kinds of expressions and stuff comes extremely naturally. And that's because I spent, like, I won't tell you how many years since I bought that book I showed you at the beginning, but I've spent all these years studying and practicing that. And now it's like a second language for me. And that's what I want it to be like for you. So to be able, what I try to show people, especially when I'm teaching people who really don't feel they can draw very well, and I know that's not this crowd, I show them this to prove to them that with just a few lines different, just like I learned in reading that Peanuts book when I was 5, with just a few lines different, you have completely different emotions being expressed. So what I'd like you to do is follow along with me. I'm going to make 5, well, almost 5, I'm running out of paper here. 5 ovals here on top, 5 on the bottom. Normally I try to make them as identical as possible. I did not succeed in that today. And I'm also, as you can probably tell, I don't think Brian shares this with me. I'm very, very rough and loose and everything. And so some of my stuff looks a little bit sloppy. Today, it's really not important. I just want to make a point. So now what I want everybody to do is think about like a third of the way down. Like imagine this was divided, these ovals were divided horizontally in thirds, and about a third of the way down, you're going to put 2 dots. I think you see where this is going. You put 2 dots about a third of the way down in each of them, all 10 of these. And I'm trying to keep them as similar as possible so that you'll see the difference between them. Okay, so now I've got these 10 heads. And just to kind of anchor it in, I'm just going to put the letter U, like a little nose under it. This does not change the expression at all. It's just so that right now it looks like a teeny weeny little smiley face, but it's not, obviously, right? This is just so we have the eyeballs aren't just floating in the middle of nowhere. Okay, so I am going to wait a few seconds for people to catch up. And in fact, I'm going to number these while you guys are catching up. I'm going to number them so that when we talk about them later, you don't have to number them, but I'm going to number mine. So we can talk about them later, and we can compare them. So right now, I'm going to move on, and I'm not exactly sure how long this is going to take. Depends on how many questions you guys have. So I'm just going to put, number one has a kind. Now it's a sort of Charlie Brownie. It's already, you guys can see, like I spent a million years studying Charlie Brown. So all of these characters on the top are going to have a smiley face. I'm going to leave the bottom row for now. So they look a little bit different just because I could not make them all the same, but the emotion that they're expressing is the same. They're all basically generally positive, right? They're not wildly thrilled. They're just a positive character, and this might be your happy customer. This might just be somebody just living their life, and they're generally an optimistic person. Now, what happens though, I'm going to leave person number one alone. What happens though, if I put two lines here on the top of the eyes of the person number two, and just to kind of make my point, I'll add a third mark here. So now person number two has got like sort of, what would you say, kind of emotional, like maybe you just gave them a present. Maybe maybe they're looking at a baby or a puppy or something that's making them feel awe, but all I did was add those three lines. That's what makes this so crazy. So now I'm going to move to number three, and I'm going to do the opposite of the lines that I did on number two. I'm going to go this way. Fix their eyeball. It's a little bit weird. Okay, so now this person is kind of more like evil and sneaky, or plotting something. Maybe they're determined, but I like to think that they're up to no good. There's something a little bit nefarious about this character. When I make this face, it's because they've got I might even give them shoulders, and like maybe they're rubbing their hands a little bit, like I'm planning some mean, horrible thing. But really, if you just forget the shoulders and the hands, you've got these eyebrows are just different, and that's all, right? And so now if I move to person number four, instead of doing eyebrows, I'm just going to make big kind of googly eyes, and then maybe put an exclamation on top. And now, it may be some lines coming out. And now I kind of messed up his eyelid there. His eye shouldn't look like it's half closed, but the idea is like, wow, excited. Just had an idea, surprised. Oh, I'm delighted. I'm excited. That's a different feeling. And then the last one, instead of doing anything with the eyeballs, I'm just going to close this person's eyes. And now that maybe they're thinking or dreaming about something that they're happy about, somebody that they love. Maybe if I put a little thought balloon up there, thought cloud up there. Now that person is like, oh, I love my dog, my cat, my husband, my wife. Okay. Look at the difference between these, how little we did to each one of them to make it, starting here, each one of these has maybe one or two lines different from each other. And yet you're expressing so many different emotions, and it only takes you can do it so fast. That's why I add characters to my sketch notes, because I can do it really fast, because I know if I want someone to look angry, I can do this. So now I'm going to do at the bottom, I'm going to do the opposite. So if you read them smiley faces at the top, so we had positive emotions. Now we're going to have the sad sacks on the bottom. These are the unhappy people. So just like with the top row, these are all, even though they're not exactly the same, they're close enough. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are all just similarly displeased. This is a customer who got something but from Amazon that wasn't what they wanted, or just something didn't turn out the way they wanted, and they're not happy with their purchase or the result. But what if we take the eyebrows from this guy and put them on this guy? So the eyebrows from number 2, we put them on number 7. Now the difference between this and this is this person's just unhappy, but this person is actually sad or depressed. And in fact, just to make it fair, I'll add the teardrop on this one. This person's crying. They're grieving. They're sad. They're disappointed. They've lost something. Their dog died. I mean, they're a lot more unhappy than this person, just with those couple of lines, right? Now, if we go to the next person, we're going to take the other eyebrows. So I kind of gave it away, the angry eyebrows, we call it the mean eyebrows, and put them on this one. They're pretty much the same eyebrows, right? But because the mouth is turned down, now this person is angry. This person might have been evil and dreaming up some mean things to do to somebody, but this person's angry. And if you want, also, I did this up here. If you want to just intensify the emotion, you can always just add like lines coming out, and that makes him really angry. There are other things you could do with the mouth and things. I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to change too much between these, because I'm trying to make the point how few lines are needed to create a completely different emotion. Now I'm going to take the googly eyes from the top. I'm going to try to not mess it up this time, and give him the googly eyes and the exclamation point. Now, this person is panicked. They forgot to pay their taxes. They've left their car in a no parking zone. Their car is being towed. Something bad has happened to this person, and he's scared and upset, and it's something reacting in a negative way. And then the same thing with this one. If I close this person's eyes, could be a lot of things. They put like maybe a black cloud up on top. They're thinking about something negative, and this person is thinking about something positive, but they're thinking, they're internally focused and ruminating about something. So you see, 10 completely different expressions with so few lines. And this works on any kind of a character. I'm going to show you like animals and stuff in a minute, but I mean, most of the time you won't need animals for what you're doing, but I like animals, so I draw them all the time. Yeah, I think it is amazing, Nancy. I love to share this with people. This is what fascinated me as a child. And what I want to point out is the only difference between the top row and the bottom row is the mouth. The mouth, if I cover this up, if I cover the bottom, the mouths of these up, see, I'll just put my Sharpies on top of them. They're the same. They are the same. It's all, but these are happy faces and these are unhappy faces. And so you have and there's a whole bunch of other things you can do too. If the eyes are closed and the mouth is you do something with the mouth is singing, you could put music notes, and now the person is singing, and it's like, you can do a lot of things. But I just wanted to give you a kind of overview of how you might make like faces differently. And so, like I said, it can be these can be like any kind of character. So I can decide if I want, what is this? What am I have some errant things down here from another presentation. We don't want these. Okay. I mean, if I decided that I wanted to to make if I wanted to do Snoopy, which I wasn't planning on doing, but if I wanted to do Snoopy, here are a couple of Snoopies. These are more like 1970s Snoopies because that's my favorite. But if he's like this, that's different than if he's like this. We've got the same expressions we just saw, right? It doesn't matter that whether it's people or anything else like that. So that's just faces, and that means you could make kind of any character you wanted. But what about when you want to show a person actually doing something? So this is where, if you've ever taken any kind of life drawing classes and stuff like that, it's going to help you a lot. But what I do when I teach people this who don't know how to draw, everyone always starts with a stick figure. And I always say, I hate stick figures. I want to kill stick figures. If you're going to put humans in your work, I mean, I'm pretty sure nobody in this audience uses stick figures, but here's the point. Here's the reason why. First of all, a stick figure what I just did, okay, it took me like there's there's no expression, there's no way to create an expression with this character. There's no humanity in this character. It basically, and to me, this says this is the most dehumanizing human there is that you can do. So and not only that, you I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 movements with my pen to make this. And I don't think that's a good return on my time investment. We work fast when we're graphic recorders. We don't want that. Obviously, you would never do that. So what do you do instead? So there are a few different schools of thought. I like these two. So if you can draw a star, I'm sure people have seen this one before. If you can draw a star, but instead of putting a top point on, you put some kind of a head. But what makes this work is now I can do whatever I want with the other points. This person might be reaching for a star. I can make everything go up, and then maybe put a shadow underneath. And now that person is jumping, and they're happy, and so it's expressing something, right? I can put two people together, and now we've got something that says partnership, or teamwork, or we win, or something like that. I can create a body language that goes the other way, not up. I can make it go down. Whoops. Make it go down, maybe put a cloud on top of their head. And now we've got that person is kind of sad. It's came out a little bit weird, but, and then, you don't even really have to pay attention to how many points you have. You've got that, you've got like a happy team, we win. Hooray for us. So there's a lot of things you can do with the star person, and you can put faces on it too, but I think you can see that when you use the right body language, it's not necessary. Now, if you're really good at drawing people, you don't have to keep it as a star. I mean, you can, if I was going to do a star person and I was going to be talking about, somebody struggling under the weight of something, I might do something like this, where they're like holding the world on their shoulders and something like that. But if you can draw people really well, you wouldn't have to do it as a star person. You could do it just normal. But to me, if you have to do people quickly, star people are a great way of just getting a lot of people into your picture quickly, and being able to express emotion with body language without resorting to other kinds of like really flat sort of things. Now, that's one way. Here's another way. I did not make this up, and I know I have this book on my shelf, but I don't think I can reach it right now. But I learned this from an old timey, I think it's called the Cartoonist Workbook, or the Cartoonist's Handbook. I'll give the title to Brian after this, and he can put it in whatever the show notes or whatever it is, in case you need it and I mentioned it in my book as well. But this one is called Keyhole Ken, and he calls it Keyhole Ken, or key. So imagine if you have like an old timey keyhole, like for the kind of key that used to look like this back in the day. We don't really need that key, but So now what you do is you close this up, and now you can put feet and arms on it. And now you've got kind of sort of a character that, even though it looks kind of like a dress because it's wider on the bottom, once you start to add other things like a suit and a tie, and maybe a briefcase, or that's a little bit cliche, but and then you can start to add some of the expressions that we did before. I'm making this up as I go along. If I just put like hair on the side, now he's kind of an older guy with a briefcase. So if I do it again, depending on which way you place the feet, and also the nose, so here's a lady. I don't know what she's doing, but she's offering this guy maybe a piece of paper, that her report or something like that. She could have a suit on too. I don't know, but you can start to do all kinds of characters with the keyhole. And also, depending on what size your characters are, you can also have children and all that kind of stuff without really having to think too much about what you're doing. I mean, obviously, again, if you're able to do more detail, then fine. But if you don't have time to do more detail, these are just really easy ways to create some kind of a character or an activity. So hats and clothes are a good way of identifying what you're trying to express. Like now we already know this guy's a chef, but if he has a frying pan, and maybe a mustache, I don't know. Right away now you're having a conversation about cooking, or something like that. So, but here's what I wanted to show you. If you do it on its side, let's see, move this up a little bit. Do it on its side, you can actually do a fairly like fun little, you can start to do it pretty much any kind of animal. Not that you really need to be doing this most of the time, but it's I think it's fun. I mean, when I do dogs, I do them in a different way, but you could definitely do this way, and it's kind of cute. I mean, I don't know, but you could, I could even do, if I wanted to, I could even do, I wanted to say, I'm going to do something with an elephant anyway, but point is, it's really more about this kind of a character. I mean, the things that I draw on my sketch notes are a little bit more humanoid than these, but if you have to do something really quickly, you can still express a lot of emotions with a character like this, and also the body language. Somebody like that's he's just an angry person. Like this person's unhappy with the way something turned out. So that could be like how do we fix this unhappy customer's problem? So it just helps a lot with the expression of emotions. I'm going to take a quick sip of water if you just and see if anybody has any questions, and come back to me for a second. How are we doing? Whoops. The computer is collapsing here.
Lisa, these are great. I really appreciate you doing this.
It's fun. I mean, I know this is like, I don't know how, whoops, sorry. My computer does not want to stay up. I'm not sure how familiar folks are with drawing cartoons and stuff. So if people want to do something a little bit more advanced, you want to let me know.
Yeah, what do you say? You can, once you put it into chat, Casey says this is good stuff. I'm learning a lot. Candace says, yes, please. Yeah, I tell you, you're our Sherpa, you're our
Right.
guide in this one. So
All right,
we'll
so
go wherever you want to.
I'm going to be really transparent with you. I did not plan this, so we're going to see what goes on here. So a lot of the times when you want to put people in your sketch notes and stuff, it's not because you're trying to express something about a specific person. A lot of times you're trying to express an idea, like, oh, now I have to go back to my pad. Hang on. Stream cam. This is a Logitech Reach that was kindly given to me by my friends at Logitech. I would say that. So sometimes you're going to be wanting to express, you can use people to express certain ideas. Like imagine if I had two keyhole people and they're facing away from each other and their arms are folded. And their mouth is down, and maybe they're angry. So I've given them an angry eyebrow. So now we have what? We have conflict, we have animosity, we have political divides, we have other kinds of things that this could express. It's not about these specific people. It's the emotions of these people are telling a story about, and you can even put a word if you wanted to say conflict. Now you've got a feeling and a word together that if it's on your sketch note, it jumps off more than just the word by itself. To me, I feel it has more impact. The same thing if you have two people, and I think I kind of showed this before with the star people, but if you have two people, and they're facing each other, facing the right way, smiling and shaking hands, now I mean, I'm doing this very crudely and quickly on purpose to show you that you don't have to do a great drawing for this to work, right? And I'll even do like a little, few little rays coming out. So that to me means partnership. We've just made a deal, collaboration, depending on what you decide to write there. So let's say it's collaboration. So that has that, so it's really easy to add like a little that emotional impact. If you're going to have, somebody on top, if you have, your little star person standing on top of a mountain, that shows a kind of a, you've got this feeling of victory and everything like that. If you just had a flag on top, which you could still do, it wouldn't have the same feeling of triumph and all that kind of stuff. So this is not as much about cartooning as it is about symbolizing certain emotions. So a lot of people will say, well, how do I show like conflict at the office? Well, this is what I might do something like that. Or how do I show let's say what else could we be wanting to express, like helping each other out or something like that. I mean, you could
can we throw some ideas at you just to see what you come
yeah.
All right. How about risk? I hear that one a lot.
Yeah, risk is good. And problem solving. Okay, risk. So obviously you could have well, I would probably draw. Well, it's a little too far away. Okay, yeah, I would probably draw like, oh, I've got two cliffs here, maybe some water, maybe an alligator in the water. These are very thick Sharpies. So, but it's like, imagine that's an alligator. Um, and that guy, he wants to go across, but he doesn't, he can't, or this other person maybe does want to go across.
That's adorable, Lisa.
I mean, I'm trying to make them really super, super, uh-oh, yeah. So I mean, something like that, or something like falling off of a cliff, or something like that. Problem solving. That's a good one. We kind of have to. That might be something you could actually do pretty much the same drawing, except that this person is maybe, building a bridge or something. I'm not sure about that one. I would have to think a little bit more about that one. I guess it would also, it'd be easier in context if we knew what kinds of problems they were looking to solve.
Amanda, you want to fill that one out a little bit? So like, what kind of problem solving?
I mean, if I were doing problem solving, I would probably be doing something like, I wouldn't necessarily even be showing them solving the problem. I would be, I might just, do something like this where the person is thinking, and, whatever the problem is might go in there, like budget or whatever kind of problem they were trying to solve. What were you going to say? Solving work problems together as a team, something is broken. Yeah, I mean, that might be something where you have like, you have a team of people, and they are, putting something together. Like you said, something's broken. Maybe it's either like something that has like a crack in it, and they're trying to put it back together, like that. Or maybe there's like a puzzle piece or something that, this guy has this piece, and that guy has this piece. I'm just making this shit up. I don't know what I'm doing here. Sorry, I'm not sure this is a family show.
It's not anymore.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so I mean, I'm putting myself on the spot here because I don't really know what we're talking about, but um, yeah, so we're not really talking about, like cartoons, like the kinds of things I do for the New Yorker, where you'd have to have like people talking to each other in a whole storyline and a caption and all of that kind of stuff. This is more basically like adding humanity to the work that you're already doing.
Mhm.
Um, I remember we did something, you and I did something, Brian, when we were together in Orlando,
We
and
did do something. Let me see if I can pull it
yeah,
up.
we were talking about struggle, or like somebody carrying something, and so I'm gonna be um and this was really like this guy was just kind of, it was something like this, and this guy was like pulling this big load of stuff. This is where I said, where if it helps if you've done
Oh yeah.
like big, carrying these big things of, like, I don't know, of rocks or something, and he's sweating. And I mean, so I end up doing stuff that looks a lot like this, and then you could basically put a word on what is this load of crap that he's yeah, there it is. Yeah, same guy. Yeah, yeah, that was right. It was e-learn. That's great. Thank you for being able to pull that up. The e-learning overload. Yeah, that's yeah. So you see, I remembered. Yeah, okay. And the thing that was the mindset, and like, what else did we do there?
Yeah, this was a good one. So we had the opportunity to do a kind of something of an ad hoc and I'll even call it a guerrilla tandem graphic recording. That one was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Ryan did all the lettering, which is beautiful. I won't take credit for any of that, and he did some of the
That was very
drawings,
kind.
and I did some of the drawings. Um, but you can see, like, for example, down at the lower left hand corner, where the person was saying how only 1/3 of employees are happy. I don't know if you can zoom in on that one. It's yellow. Yeah, there we go. So you see, that's a good example. You've got one happy person and one's angry and one's kind of depressed. So that was one way of bringing humanity into the thing, right? um and then where else did we do this? um there were a couple of other ones. The thing about mindset was basically just like, put stuff in the person's. Oh, I was just trying to use your fancy marker that had the all the like kind of
Oh
like,
yeah, the gradient marker. Uh-huh.
yeah, 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 I was just trying to find a way to use that um, when I did that one. Um, but even, even mindset, the idea of someone being having an expression of enlightenment, or having an idea. Um,
Yeah, you had
and
some great ones on here. I loved the just because it was a great story, the Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist. And
yes.
somehow you drew this like just shifty looking scribble of a guy. But it works, man. I mean, it's just it's so good. Like he's looking over his shoulder, he's kind of hunched over. Just the
Yeah, I don't even remember
expression.
the story they were normally when somebody's telling some kind of an anecdote or something, I don't usually capture that, because it's like, oh, it's a detail, it's trivial, it's not important to what they're about to say. But that was such a funny story. I just thought the idea that somebody would go and steal maple syrup,
Oh yeah.
was just silly.
How could you not
Um,
tell that?
yeah. Why did I draw a dinosaur? Oh yeah, it had to do, it was like Jurassic Park, right? It was like why did the dinosaur end up in that picture?
I was going to ask you that. I wasn't sure how the dinosaur got in there either.
They were talking about Jurassic Park, like they were talking about people riding into, like, they mentioned it. I didn't bring it in out of nowhere. I think,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. Now I can't
Yeah,
remember.
I must I was focused on something else, I guess. I was like, where did the
Yeah,
dinosaur
yeah,
come from?
yeah. But I mean, even the dinosaur has like a like
Hmm.
I didn't make him angry. It's more like, hey, we're just happy to see you. And he's like, oh shit, and I don't know, I don't remember what the point was. I think the idea was that, recruiting people was kind of a scary thing to do, or that you were kind of going into an unknown zone of, and somebody did bring up, yeah, Casey, you're right. It was like they would eat you alive or something. I don't know. I thought I heard Jurassic Park, so I had to bring in dinosaurs.
I know
So
feeding time.
yeah.
And you know what? The one character that did make an appearance a couple of times was actually Wile E. Coyote. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. That's
yeah.
funny.
You even
Yeah.
got like the anvil on the head. And what I love about it is that it clearly it's Wile E. Coyote and it's in Lisa Rothstein style. I mean, it's like, that's not That's not Chuck Jones, that's yours, but it's
Well,
still
I
Wile E.
did a more
Coyote.
Chuck Jonesy one at the bottom. I think I wasn't happy with that one, but that one looks a little bit more Chuck Jonesy.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's right. They asked, "What's your coyote trick?" And they talked about how in the cartoons, Wile E. Coyote paints his own tunnel on the side of the mountain, and then he wants other people to run into it, but then of course the train comes out and runs him over. So,
Hmm.
um, Amanda, recruitment is outdated. Maybe that was it. Maybe it was like prehistoric. They were using prehistoric methods. I really don't remember what the point of that was.
It could have been. And Lisa, let me just say it was a pleasure working with you. Yeah, let me kind of zoom out on this for a little bit and just talk about if it's okay to talk about tandem graphic recording because that's a
Sure.
thing in its own right. I find that when you're working with somebody else, there's kind of two ways of doing it. One way is to do a division of labor, sort of like the way that Lisa and I did, where I did the lettering and she did the drawing, because like clearly she's an amazing illustrator, and she was the best athlete for that one. Another, Casey, you and I recently did a tandem the same way, where we actually had a couple of people working on it, and we had somebody doing the lettering, somebody doing the coloring, somebody else doing the illustration. Another way to do it is just to do it based off the ideas that you hear.
Mhm.
So somebody talks about the great Canadian maple syrup heist. I might whisper to Lisa, "Oh, I got that one," so she knows that
Mhm.
I'm drawing it, so we're not drawing on top of each other.
Right.
And again, it was just such a pleasure doing a tandem with
Well,
you.
this was the only time I ever did that. I mean, Brian invited me to
Oh,
do that.
really?
Yeah, no, I never did that before. I'm just like, and I'm like, "Whoa," I wasn't ready to do that. And also, to be honest, I'll be honest with you guys, I haven't done like the things with the markers on the boards and everything for a really long time because I got used to using my iPad for everything. So it was fun to do the analog version again, but I didn't know how we were going to divide that stuff up, and it was really pretty organic. We just picked what we wanted, what we were doing, and it was just
Mhm.
and we communicated with each other like you just said, like, oh, I'll take care of that, or I'll do
Yeah.
this. And then you would letter some things and I'd be like, oh, that could use a little doodle or something, and so I just
Mhm.
came in and sort of embellished. So that was
Yeah,
really
and one other cool move if you're doing a tandem is that typically the person that's lettering leads the chart, right? Because they capture the thing first, and that's most protocol for graphic recordings. The first thing that you capture is the lettering.
mm-hmm.
And I don't know if we did this or not, but typically the person that's lettering will then grab a pencil and carve out a space for the illustrator to follow with and say, okay, whatever you're going to draw, I want you to put it right here. So that way I can be thinking about like composition and layout as we go. So
Yeah.
Lisa, we've got to go ahead.
I
I'm
have,
sorry.
I have a question here from Allie, and this is
Yeah.
interesting. Um, Brian has more of a method than I do. What's your formula method process regarding your utilization of font, color, scale? I have no method. I show up, I do it, and whatever shows. But the thing is, it's easier with an iPad because you can just move things around. I mean, I don't have to be as married to the I guess I kind of go, I usually put the title across the top and end up with, but as far as font is concerned, I don't really, like I said, calligraphy is not my main thing. And I'm basically just lettering in a legible way. And that's kind of the best that I can do. I don't, and I worship what you guys do with these really beautiful, different kinds of fonts and everything. Cause that's just not my thing. A lot of the time I, adjust things like color. Like if you look at the maple syrup guy, we talked about this a little bit, Brian. I'll add like a color behind it, yeah. So to kind of give it its own little zone, so it doesn't kind of like everyone knows that vignette belongs to that thing, and then the characters pop out a little bit more and everything like that. And I'll try to use colors that I when I work, I try to use colors that come out of the client's logo. That does two things. Number one, it brands it to the client, and number two, it keeps my palette limited so we don't end up with the kind of the clown vomit of every color in the
Mm.
box. But I'm not always able to kind of keep to that discipline. But as far as lettering and stuff like that, fonts and stuff, that's not me. That's Brian. I'd love to learn. I'd love to learn to letter better, but right now that's not my focus.
I'll give you just a couple of thoughts on lettering. So I think it really depends on what marker you're using. So for example, my default lettering right there is using a Neuland round nib marker. I like the round nibs because you can get a monoline with it. You don't really have to be that specific about how you're holding it. And then the stuff that I do for emphasis, like maple syrup, that's using a brush nib because, it's going to be a little bit thicker. You're going to change the character of the lettering. Sometimes I'll switch up the lettering, but most of the time, like that, where I kind of got like a little cursive thing going on. But really with me, the markers drive the lettering. And that's all I'll say about this one because this is the Lisa show. But Lisa, I want to show you something because
I
actually,
love what you did right there with the recruitment thing, how you left the white around the left the white around the word recruitment
oh,
when you
thank
put
you.
in
Thank you. That's
that's
very kind of
beautiful.
you
I
to
love
say.
that. Yeah.
Well, so let's see. I think it was, yeah, Amanda had a question about, well, actually, previously it was Allie had a question about scale, and I have
Yeah.
a related question about that one. Let me see if I can show you what I mean. Yeah, let me go back to my document camera for a second. Would you say that depending on the size that you're drawing at, are your
Mhm.
figures like more or less detailed depending on the scale of your characters?
Probably if it's small, if it's small like that, it's probably just meant to symbolize there's a person on the side on the edge of a cliff. If it's larger, I'm probably trying to it's probably meant to be a specific character,
Hmm.
a specific kind of character. If I'm going to make them as big as what you're doing right now, I would, there would be some significance to who they are. And I'm trying to talk about a certain kind of a person. Um, if I'm just trying to like say, human, your customer base, then they get smaller. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then like you, I always do a little bit of a doodle of the speaker. Um, that number one, it kind of shows off any portraiture, like a caricature portraiture skills you have, but also it makes it much more likely that the speaker will take pictures of the thing and
Yeah.
show it to other people and post it on their social and all that stuff. So
Yeah,
you
it's
know
good marketing. You're right.
they like it. Yeah, it makes them happy. So it makes me happy to make them happy. Of course, it's also a little risky because if they don't like how they look, especially female speakers, it because I don't know. This is a cartoon thing that and it's the same thing in acting also. Men can look funny and goofy and they still look okay. If you make a woman look too crazy and funny,
Yeah. Yeah.
she's no longer attractive. So it's really hard to do a cartoony woman that isn't weird looking. So it's not fair, but that's just the way it is. you know.
I'm going to point out Nancy's avatar right now if you can see it. I mean, that's adorable and I think it works. Can you see it right there? Here, wait a minute. Let me see if I can get
Yeah, can you show me? Because I don't see her.
it.
I will
No,
find
she
her.
she's got a cute little thing. Here,
Oh,
let me
I
see. If I,
see it. I see it. I see
there
it.
you
I
go.
see it.
Huge
Look at
job.
her. That's so
Hmm.
cute. That is cute. But
I
it's
think I
definitely better. It's okay for you to do it for yourself. You know, it's another thing to
yes.
have a complete stranger say, "Hey, I thought you looked like this." It's like, I look horrible. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
men don't seem to have that issue.
No,
Um,
we look goofy no matter what. There's no
well,
change.
also, it's also the people who are men who have really no hair on top, like they don't have a problem if you draw them bald. But men who think they still have hair, if you draw them bald, they get very upset.
What are you
That's
talking about? Yeah.
uh,
So there's another question for us in chat. Let me go back to it. Amanda, she says, if you both do pictures, do you agree on style? So I think she's talking about tandem
oh
again.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
how would you answer that one? Or I can.
um, for me, it's like I wouldn't, whoever I worked with, I would just be like, their style is their style. I mean, it is what it is. And I mean, you did some drawings on that board that we did
Mhm.
together, and there was no problem with the fact that your style is different than mine. I mean, we all use, we both, here's where we had some things the same. We both used black outline for
Yes.
the drawings. I think that helped, I don't even remember. Did I draw that guy's head or did you draw his head up there? That guy.
This guy up here?
No, no,
Or
no, no, no. The speaker. That was me, I think. Or
that
maybe.
was actually both of us. If you're looking, I
Oh,
had done,
yeah,
if you really squinted it, I had done like a 102 sketch, right?
yeah. And then I went over it.
And then
Yeah,
you inked over it.
yeah.
So I got
So
the proportion.
that's our combined style, sort of. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really feel like there are some things that that you did that look that I don't feel like that thing, the hand coming out of the quicksand.
Yeah, I did the hand. You're right.
Yeah. So I don't know. It doesn't, because we both use black outline, I don't really feel that there was any kind of a conflict there. I can
Hmm.
understand what you mean by that, but I mean, obviously, you wouldn't just bring in somebody off the street that you'd never seen their work before. You know what their drawings look like. You would obviously be okay with that, right? So
Yeah. It's funny to hear you say that because Casey and I like literally just did exactly what you said not to do like last week, just because we were just having fun with it though. I mean, it was very low stakes.
what did I
Uh,
say not to do?
Not to bring somebody in off the street that you hadn't seen their style
Oh,
before.
well, no, no, my point is you can do that if you want to, but then you can't complain about how they draw.
Oh
That's what
no,
I'm
of
saying.
course not. Of course not.
I mean, like if it's fine if you want to be open and loose about it, but like if you then I don't think you don't have the luxury of being able to agree on anything,
Right.
if you're going to be that spontaneous. That's
Well, we are coming just about up to the end. I can't believe this has been like a super fast hour. Hardly can believe it. If anybody hasn't had a chance to get a question answered or ask Lisa something, uh, go ahead and go off mute or drop something into chat. We've got a minute or two, and then I'll stop the recording. But Lisa, while people are deciding on how to part ways,
Oh yeah.
any parting advice?
Yeah, well, I did want to go back to my slides for just a second, and I'm
Hmm.
not going to share everything, but oh yeah, this was left over from another one. But everybody here can draw. My elephant in the room. You can't. People who think they can't draw. So what I just did was the character part of what I call the three C's. Is when I teach when I teach visual thinking to people who don't do what we do. I break it down into characters, concepts, and context. So character is what we just did. Concepts is really more like icons and symbols and things, which is where most people start. And then contexts are things like roads and bridges and frameworks and things like that. So I did cover all of that in the book that I told you about. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, you can go to this link or just look for me on LinkedIn. If you want to go to my website, you can go here. If you want to get the book, you can go here. Just so you know, it's just a link to Amazon. You can always just search for it on Amazon too. Um, what's nice about it is what I tried to do differently, because there's so many people who have visual thinking books, and I resisted writing it for years because I thought I have every one of them, and I didn't think the world needed another one. But I did talk a lot about what we talked about today, about bringing human emotion into your work. And then there's also chapters about different use cases in the innovation space, in team alignment and stuff like that. So if you're interested in consulting and stuff, there might be some things in there for you that might be interesting. So um, that's all I wanted to say about that.
Nice. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for your time. Thank you and for your generosity. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Everybody, let's give Lisa a big Nova Scribes. Thank you very much.
Guys, thanks so much.